Hello and welcome to Module 1. This is part 1. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Module 1 is all about self-discovery, getting to know who you are, what you care about in this world. And the reason that we're starting here is because, most people, they pick occupations or they pick degree programs because they're kind of interested in that subject or because it might make them a decent amount of money. Usually that's about it. That's the extent of it. And to me, that's just not enough. I mean, we spend a lot of our time working. The people that we work with, we spend a lot of time with those people. So I believe that an occupation really needs to fit a person. It needs to fit who you are as a person. It needs to fit what you care about in this world. And it needs to fit how you want to spend your time, right? So this is the stuff that we want to explore first. Then we can find occupations that fit that. And then we can take a look at what qualifications or education they need, okay? So we're gonna get started with self-discovery, and we're gonna do this in a lot of different ways, but I want to start by taking a look at what we give our time to, because whether we are thinking about it or not, um, you know, what we give our time to is what we're prioritizing, for better or for worse, okay? So I've got a little demonstration that I want to start with, and then we'll go on from there.
Hello everyone. So this module is all about self-discovery, getting to know yourself, and what it is that you really care about, what you value, and what you prioritize. Now, when we start exploring this, if you're not really sure what it is that you really value, a good place to start is to take a look at what you give your time to. What you give your time to is what you're prioritizing. So I've got a little demonstration here that's going to kind of explain why we're looking at this, and then we'll get into more details in a minute. So this empty jar here represents your life and the time that you have to fill. Now, these rocks that you see are the things that are really important in life, typically things that money can't buy. We'll get into a little bit more detail about what they could be in a minute. The pebbles here represent things that matter, but aren't necessarily all that important. They matter, but they're just not that important. And then this salt that you see here in the end represents all the little things that don't matter and aren't important. Now, most people, when they go to fill their time, start here and work their way that way. So let's see how that works out. We're going to start with the little things that don't matter and aren't important. We're going to fill our time with that first. All right. Now, then we're going to fill our time with the things that matter but aren't really all that important. Flying around all over the place. All right. So what that leaves is very, very little time for the stuff that's actually really important and that we really care about, the stuff that money can't buy. You are not going to be able to get it all in, and the important stuff is going to get left out. Now, let's reset and try this a whole other way. All right, so this time we are going to start by filling our time with the things that are really important. All right, so all of the most important things made it into our time. And you'll see that there's still a little bit of room in there. So now we can start filling in with the things that matter but aren't necessarily all that important. Every once in a while you may need to shake things up and rearrange things, but that's okay. All right. It all fit. You think there's time for the little things that don't really matter? They will always find time. still be time for all of it if you go with priorities first. And you know what? If not all of the little things fit, honestly, that's okay because they don't matter and they're not important. Ooh, is it gonna fit? Is it gonna fit? There's just a little bit. Let's see. All right. So we had the same amount of time, the same amount of priorities with our important things that money can't buy, the same amount of things that matter but aren't necessarily that important, and the same amount of the little things. But because we started with the most important things first, it all fit. And if you don't want to give this much time to the little things, you don't have to, right? All right, so take a minute and think about it. How are you filling your time? A lot of people, when they first sit down and actually think about this, think about how they're spending their time, they didn't realize before, but now they realize that they're actually giving time to things that they don't really care about, things that don't really matter. And it's leaving no time for the things that they really do care about. This is an important aha moment for people because they might not have even realized this. They might not even be able to say maybe what really is important to them, what their values are, but the minute they think about it like this, then they go, this is not how I want to be spending my time. And now they're getting closer to what it is that they really do care about and how they would prefer to spend their time. And now they can start making some choices instead of just following the shoulds or the I have tos or the I'm supposed tos and starting with those and giving the leftovers to what they care about. They can put what they care about in the calendar first and fill in with what they need to get done or what they're supposed to or what they should do. It'll fit, but we want to start with those priorities, okay? Let's take a minute to talk about, all right, well, so what are these things? What are the big rocks, the pebbles, and the little salt? Well, it kind of depends on who you are. And that's what we're going to spend the rest of the module figuring out. So for example, I've heard some people suggest that the salt, the little things that don't matter and aren't important. I've heard social media, video games suggested, but honestly, that kind of just depends on who you are. For some people, yes, those are little things that aren't important and don't matter. However, for other people, if you're a social media marketing manager, if you're a video game designer, that's your job. So it's more than just a little thing that doesn't matter, right? Now, I have, going back to the video games, I have had some people suggest that video games are really addictive and so therefore they're bad. And I do want to speak on that really quickly. Again, it depends on who you are. There are so many things out there in the world that people can become addicted to or can take to an excess that is unhealthy, whether it's an addiction or not. For some people, it's video games. For the majority of the people on this planet, it's not, right? And there are other things like food and substances. So when it comes to that, you've got to really take a look at yourself and say, is this still healthy for me, right? So for some people, a little bit of gaming at the end of the day is just a little bit of relaxation or, a de-stress, and that's fine. It's not taking it to an unhealthy place at all. So again, it just depends on who you are. Now, for the pebbles, things that matter but aren't necessarily all that important. It could be your job, it could be a casual hobby, that sort of thing. Again, it kind of depends on your job. If your job has to do with a good cause or helping other people eat or something like that, then it might fall into another category. But for a lot of people, it can fall into this category. Now, for the big rocks, the things that are really important in life, these are things that typically money can't buy. So really important relationships with friends and family. This could be fighting for a good cause, your health. So things that typically money can't buy. So for every person, you want to sit down, you want to take a look at how you're spending your time, what you're giving your time to. Are there things that you're giving more time to than you would really like to? Are there things that you wish you were giving more time to that you just don't ever seem to find enough time for? This is going to help us start to narrow down what it is that we really care about, what we want to be prioritizing in our life, and then we can be intentional about how we give our time to the things that we care about and to the things that we don't care about. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the rest of the module.
Okay, so now that you've had a moment to think about how you're spending your time, what you're giving your time to, I want you to just take a minute here to write down how you spend your time now, and if you would want to change anything about that. How do you feel about where most of your time is going? Are you happy with it? Are you not happy with it? Would you want to change it? How would you want to change it? Just take a moment to write that down, and we will discuss that in our session, okay, in our one-on-one session. That's the end of part 1. I will see you in part 2.